Revenge has been a staple in storytelling for centuries. Works of literature such as The Count of Monte Cristo and Hamlet have given us classic tales of people being consumed with righting the wrongs that have been done to them, measure for measure. This kind of drama still can be seen in today's movies, like Kill Bill, True Grit, and John Wick. More often than not, these types of narratives tend to have tragic endings for our heroes, as they fall deeper and deeper into the dark spiral known as revenge. To quote another popular movie, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. What's up, people? Welcome to RoR Reviews, where I rate and rain upon video games and anime with an adult eye until the sun sets. Today I'll be looking at the anime 91 Days. 91 Days is a 12-episode mafia drama series. It is an original story by Takeo Kishimoto, who has worked on other anime titles such as Erased, Joker Game, and Bunny Drop? 91 Days is created by the anime studio Shuka, who is mostly known for doing the various parts of RoR Season 2. This title ended this past summer, so once again there is no American parental guidelines yet. My guess would be rated TV MA for intense violence and language. To my knowledge, there is no home release plans for 91 Days at the time of this recording. However, I believe Funimation is doing an English dub for the show, so it is likely it will be announced for DVD and Blu-ray at some point in the near future. As of right now, you can only watch this series with English subtitles on Crunchyroll, but as I stated before, it will also most likely be available on Funimation now, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. 91 Days takes place in a fictional American city called Lawless. During Prohibition, Lawless is ruled by two powerful mafia families, the Venettis and the Oricos. These two rival families are on the verge of war for control of the city. Our story's protagonist, Avilio Bruno, enters the fray by attempting to gain favor in the Venetti family by selling them some high-quality hooch made by his friend Cortillo. Avilio and Cortillo slowly move up in the ladder in the crime family business, thanks to the support of Nero Venetti, the eldest son and rebellious black sheep of the famed mafia family. However, Avilio didn't join the crime syndicate for the money or glory. His true intentions is to seek revenge on the Venetti family. Avilio's real name is Angelo Laguzza. 7 years ago, the leader, or Don, of the Venettis, Vincent Venetti, who is also Nero's father, murdered Angelo's family in front of his eyes when he was a young child with two other masked assailants. Angelo barely managed to escape with his life, never knowing why his family was executed or who had robbed him of his peaceful life, until 7 years later when Angelo receives a mysterious letter in the mail that names all of the accomplices that killed his family. Angelo finds a new purpose in life by assassinating those who had caused him so much pain, but he will have to wait patiently and play his cards just right if he wants to take down one of the most powerful mafia families out there. Will Angelo get his revenge? And just how far is Angelo willing to go to obtain his revenge? The plot is something most viewers, including myself, will be the initial reason why you started watching this anime. A mafia revenge tragedy? Who doesn't like those elements from the Godfather movies? So yes, I was hooked from the get-go, and the story kept my interest throughout most of the series. I thought this would be a great slow-building mafia drama. We would see Angelo calmly working his way into the mafia family, buying his time for the perfect moment to strike his wrath on the guilty. The problem is the pacing of the show is kind of all over the place. By episode 2, Angelo crosses his name off his list, which I was totally surprised by. I didn't think he would get this far into his revenge until halfway in the series, giving the audience some time to fully comprehend the setting of this tale, being it's a fictional city and all. There are a lot of characters, remember, and how they all relate in this mafia world. But because of Angelo's lethal actions, I was even more confused who was who in this fictional gangster town. So the story starts off with a big bang, but then quickly turns into a slow burning series, which I originally thought it would be. However, I think this kind of pacing might turn off viewers. Additionally, I personally thought it made little sense plot-wise. I mean, Angelo barely introduced himself to these people, and all of a sudden one of their guys gets whacked? Hello? Red flags. If this scene in question came off as Angelo was a little too excited and accidentally killed the guy, then I would be more forgiving. But this action seems to be part of Angelo's great plan, which sounds like a lousy plan to me. Thankfully, Angelo gets his act together, and I appreciate the time the show takes to really show Angelo's patience and just how good he is at hiding his true feelings from others. He reminds me of Light from Death Note or Lelouch from Code Geass. He's even got that evil grin down. However, I would say he's the most driest version of that kind of character, so he really needs a good yang to his yin to keep the audience entertained. This is where Nero comes in. Angelo knows that the only way to get to Vincent is by becoming best friends with his son Nero. Nero is a reckless, outgoing, brutally honest, and doesn't play by the rules kind of guy. He does what he does because he truly believes his actions will help out his family in the end. The combination of Nero and Angelo creates a similar relationship seen in classic buddy cop movies. They play well off each other and kept me amused until the next drama beat. In fact, the relationship adds even more to the drama, knowing that Angelo is just pretending to be friends with Nero, and you as the viewer wondering how Nero will react if he ever finds out who Angelo really is, had me excited just to see how the story unfolds. The only other issue I had with the narrative was the show's ending. The ending is somewhat open to interpretation, which left me with an unsatisfying feeling. Due to time constraints, let me just say I mostly enjoyed the rest of the supporting cast. They felt like they had some importance in the narrative and helped create a satisfying drama. The one character I couldn't stand was Fango. He works as an antagonist to Angelo and the Venetti family, but he was way too over the top for my taste. He's supposed to come off as a violent, power-hungry maniac, which is a type of character I've never really cared for, at least not to this degree. Studio Shuka does a fine job at recreating a prohibition America. The level of detail in this foreign setting for a Japanese studio should be commended. The way that everyone dresses, from the ladies' elegant outfits to the men's stylish suits, and the technology that was available ranging from the Model Ts to the Tommy guns, really makes you feel like you're living in the early 20th century. The mafia component of the show is also not afraid to make allusions to other popular mafia media titles in the West. They also paint a vivid picture between the rich mafia families and the very struggling, starving poor people in the more urban areas. It is the perfect juxtaposition that represents that era in American history. I like the more serious character designs used in the show. Most characters look sinister or were downright miserable. You can visually see the heavy burden these characters carry on their shoulders as a result of working in the mafia underworld. The only negative thoughts I have is towards the show's characters' consistency. There are times characters look really off-model, especially in scenes when the camera's just a bit far off from characters' faces. And there were a couple cases some really super crazy lazy eyes going on. I'm sure most of these art mistakes will be fixed in a home release version of the series. Overall, I thought the animation was just a tad bit below the industry standard. There are times where it is very noticeable the studio had to find cheap ways to animate certain scenes, the most obvious offender being the CG cars. The way these cars move and suddenly stop with the 2D backgrounds can be distracting to look at. These are minor gripes I have with the show's art and animation, compared to the poor editing I saw in between certain shots. One shot would have a character in a certain position, and then after a cut, they would be in a totally different position. Maybe I'm the only one who knows these kinds of things, since I spent a large amount of my time editing, so perhaps you'll be more forgiving than myself. But I wish the staff would have put the same amount of precision in these smaller aspects as they did when they were creating the location of this fiction. Here is an anime that would easily benefit from an English dub, and hopefully we'll get one thanks to Funimation in the next coming months. The story takes place in America, so it only makes sense that these characters would speak in English rather than Japanese. Currently, it's missing that vintage charm of the 1920s that you would get from English dubs, like in Baccano. The Japanese voice actors did the best they could at portraying the characters of 91 Days. While Takashi Kundo gives a solid performance as the silent deadly Angelo, the star of the show, without a doubt, is Nero, due to the range of his character. He had to seem likable, yet menacing when called upon, and I think Takuya Iguchi does a great job of conveying this complex character. Easily my least favorite actor would be Tenjuro Suda's Fango. I didn't care for the character, and I thought the actor was overacting his lines. The soundtrack is skillful at establishing a serious tone. The use of string instruments help build the slow drama into its inevitable conclusion. The music is calming, with just the right amount of peril hidden underneath the surface. The OST flourishes in the show, but I don't think it would be something I would listen to by itself. The opening of this series is easily one of the best anime openings I've seen recently. The music is done by TK, who you might recognize from Tokyo Ghoul's first opening. He has a high-pitched voice for a male vocalist, but something about his voice conveys a sad, tragic vibe that strikes an emotional chord to me. TK's voice fits perfectly with the visuals of a struggling Angelo who is consumed with the past. The ending is a soft jazz piece with minimal vocals that displays the large cast of characters' faces on shards of glass. It hardly has any animation, though I appreciate the symbolism of the broken glass, as if it was saying all of these characters are broken on the inside because of the connection with the mafia, even if it is a bit on the nose. To recap, this series' mafia narrative comes off as an engaging tale that isn't often told in the anime media. However, the pacing of how the events unfold and the ending might be difficult for some viewers to overcome. The dynamic duel of Angelo and Nero and their bittersweet relationship keeps you on the edge of your seat. Most of the supporting cast contributed in painting the classic tale of living a life of organized crime. The animation production took the extra time to create a realistic prohibition America. Too bad they couldn't apply that same kind of level of detail in the animation. Nero's Japanese voice actor steals the show with his large spectrum of emotions, though an English dub could potentially take the show to the next level. The musical score fits the somber mood nicely, and the opening sequence could possibly be one of the best OPs of the year. So with that all in mind, and based off my own personal preferences, I give 91 Days a 3 out of 5 and a recommendation to watch it. I enjoy mafia dramas, and it was interesting to see that type of storytelling being told by Japanese animators. If you like other mafia stories or gritty dramas, then 91 Days might be for you. If you need a well-paced story, superior animation, or a conclusive ending, then 91 Days might not be for you. But hey, that's just my opinion. Have you seen 91 Days? What did you think of it? What are some of your favorite mafia fictions? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Well, that about concludes my anime review today. If you like what I do, please be sure to like and share this video with others. And if you want to keep up to date with all my video reviews, please be sure to subscribe to my channel, RoR Reviews, where I plan on doing many more reviews of video games and anime. If you want to see what I'm up to in between videos, please be sure to follow me on social media. Links for those will be listed below in the video description. Thanks so much for watching. I was Rayden, and I'll see you guys again when the sun rises out.